Excellent. So welcome to all the students. Thank you for joining us. This is the first of what will be many info sessions that we're going to have about the domestic field sites. My name is Susan Cohen. I work at the Institute for the Environment, and I just help coordinate things and try to keep all the parties talking to each other because everybody's so busy. And then we have all three field site directors here. So we're going to jump right to them because they're really why you're here, to hear what they have to say about their field sites. But Tony's right. Just go to a field site. It is an extraordinary experience. You will have no other experience like this during your time at North Carolina at UNC. And you can't make a mistake. That's for sure. That's the first thing I always tell students when they say I can't decide is you can't make a mistake. So one of our field sites is in the Outer Banks, North Carolina, and it is led by Dr. Lindsay Dobbs. So Lindsay, I will immediately kick it over to you. And I believe you should be able to share.
Yep, I think so.
Oh, I already love the first slide. It's so beautiful. And students, if y'all put questions in the chat, I'll monitor that, or you can wait till everybody's done presenting and then ask questions, whatever y'all are more comfortable doing.
Okay, thanks, Susan. And hey, everyone, I'm glad that you made it here this evening. So as Susan said, my name's Lindsay Dobbs. I'm the director of the Outer Banks field site, which is all of us are fall semester programs. And we just wrapped up. And this one here on the Outer Banks is Integrative Science and Policy. And really takes kind of a coupled human natural system approach and a experiential learning approach, which all of us do as well. This photo is from one of our field trips where we visit Lake Drummond, which is in the Great Dismal Swamp. And we do quite a bit of paddling at this field site. So we do have academic approaches to public policy and natural resource management. And there are a lot of memorable experiences in the classroom, like this trip to Lake Drummond, as well as outside of the classroom. So we are located here, or I guess we are physically situated most of the year here on Roanoke Island. And we are hosted by the Coastal Studies Institute, which is administered by East Carolina University. So this is our building. It's here on the back side of Roanoke Island. And then the guest house where the students live is pictured here at the top. And this is the common area and one of the bedrooms. Susan, what do you need?
Lindsay, you should turn off your video.
Okay, it's not working.
Just so it goes a little bit in and out. I want your audio to stay strong.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, now I am a faceless voice. Okay, so we use this guest house, which is in Manteo, in downtown Manteo, and the students are basically about a 3-mile bike ride or drive between the guest house and the Coastal Studies Institute. With the guest house in Manteo, it's really nice because you're really in close proximity to a downtown area with grocery stores and a few little restaurants and things like that. And then when you're at the Coastal Studies Institute, you're right on the water. You can't really tell that from this picture, but this is a field site where you are surrounded by water on an island in the middle of the Sound. And Coastal Studies Institute has several graduate students there, several faculty members from the Integrated Coastal Programs, Integrative Coastal Sciences Department at East Carolina University. So you're exposed to a lot of academic perspectives, not just those represented by the field site faculty. So the field site experience, basically you have 17 credit hours of classes, and I'm going to show you what those classes are on the next slide. But we limit our class size to less than 14 students. And we really try and make our classes interactive, applied, and hands-on. And we address environmental issues through multiple lenses. These are a couple of our field trips and in-class events. These students are measuring water quality parameters in the Wanchese Harbor from one of our vessels. And then the next photo, the students are, I think, paddling in Kitty Hawk. And then they're doing a beach macroinvertebrate lab at the top right. And then we had someone we had an interdisciplinary fisheries field trip focused between management, law, and natural science. And they're looking at some model fishing here in the bottom photo. So the cost of, I think, all of the field sites, including housing, is less than or equal to that of a semester on campus for in-state students, and it's actually much less expensive than a semester on campus for out-of-state students. So that's a big benefit, even with all that hands-on learning and field trips at all of our field sites. So the classes, aside from the seminar, count towards most E3P majors and concentrations. These are the classes and the credits associated with them here at our field site. Some of these classes, including ENAC 489, when you look on Connect Carolina, it says that they're prerequisites. That's a lie. We really try and teach it to all different levels, all different backgrounds, all of these classes. So sustainable coastal management, the economics of coastal resources has actually changed to coastal law and policy. I missed that when I was updating these slides. And the weekly schedule basically is 2 days of classes, 1 to 2 days of internships a week, and 1 to 2 days of field trips, labs, and capstone research a week. So to tell you a little bit more about the internships at our field site, you can either learn from a professional, and the internship partner, the types of internship partners that we have are listed on the bottom of this slide here. Or you can conduct independent research under a CSA faculty advisor. Regardless, you gain experience working in a policy and or research environment. And we've had several students that do honors thesis projects here as well. In the photos here, you can see Julia, who interned with the National Park Service, releasing a baby loggerhead that I said she worked for the National Park Service, yes, but she did a lot of nest excavations, and she also did a lot of necropsies of marine mammals that washed up on the beach. And she's actually now changed her career, ideas for the future based on this internship, because she just never knew she would enjoy that type of work, and she loved it. Then to the right of Julia is Kayla, and she did an honors thesis project in the wetlands of the Currituck Sound with me and with Dr. David Lagomasino at the Coastal Studies Institute. And then Jared did a native plant and butterfly internship with the North Carolina Aquarium on Roanoke Island. So you can see everything from county and town planning departments to law firms to state and federal agencies and researchers. We place students in all of those different internships. And then for the capstone research project, all of us have, actually, I should mention, all field sites have internships or an independent research component, and all of us have a capstone research project. And those allow the students to apply research techniques and analytical methods and scientific knowledge, and in the case of our field site, also policy knowledge to an issue of local importance. So we've done recent projects on the maritime forest, Buxton Woods, looking at community perceptions and vegetation change. And those are represented in both of these photos. So the students were looking for the vegetation plots using a metal detector in the top photo. And in the bottom photo, they were practicing a mental modeling exercise. So here at the Outer Banks Field Site, we do take that human natural system approach where they're doing both qualitative research and quantitative research. And in the past, we've done research on septic systems and water quality, living shorelines, predators on the Albemarle Peninsula. And I think for next year, we're thinking about working with the Audubon Society up in Currituck Sound, and again, doing a project where we are looking at natural system elements and human system elements. And Susan, I see that you're excited. I was just at a Currituck Sound Coalition meeting, and they mentioned that they were working with you. So
yes, will we have a chance to work together?
That would be awesome.
Oh my gosh, we're flying a bunch of drones up there and doing a lot of marsh characterization. It'd be awesome to connect on that, Lindsay.
Absolutely. I already have it on my list after.
Oh, good.
So yeah. Okay, so even you have with 17 credits of classes and that capstone research project, the students stay really busy, but we also allow lots of time for fun. And this year and the past few years, actually, we've arranged for surfing lessons or stand-up paddleboarding lessons so that the students feel comfortable with that recreational opportunity here. So these are at the top, the students during that surfing lesson. I think that everyone managed to get standing on the board, which is amazing to me. I wish I had taken the lesson as well, if that was the outcome. And then a lot of students love to fly kites at Jockey's Ridge and watch the sunrise there. We also have a lot of students who are hunters or fishers. And we also just have these beautiful locations to watch sunrises and sunsets. And yes, the students made it to several sunrises. So their schedules kind of shifted while they were here. So you have plenty of opportunities to explore this beautiful area. With that, this is a picture of our group after field sampling this week. And I don't know if you can tell, but they became a really, really close-knit cohort. And I think that all of us who are field site directors or who teach for the field sites also get to know the students so well and can write excellent recommendation letters for anyone who attends the programs. So yeah, as everyone has said, definitely attend one of the field sites. And if you're interested in learning more about this one, you can just Google OBXFS, check out our blog or Instagram, or shoot me an email and I'd be happy to talk with you.
Excellent. Thank you, Lindsay. And we are recording this also, and I'll pop the web address in the chat box where the recording will be available to everybody. So Tony, we'll go to you next because you are in the middle of the map there. And while Tony's pulling up his presentation, I'll just re-emphasize a couple things that Lindsay said that's so true is you are exposed to the network of the field site directors. So the field site directors have all these networks that they've developed over years of research and teaching, and you get to take advantage of all the people that they know, and you do build these amazing relationships. And while you may not be doing it explicitly for letters of recommendation, you really do end up with an amazing collection of references, not just from the field site directors, from all the other people that you get exposed to. Okay, Tony, looks like you're ready.
All right, I'm ready. We're going to go back and forth between two presentations, but
that's okay.
All right, so just some context. So we just heard about the Outer Banks field site, and that's located right here. Everyone can see what I'm pointing at. And so the Morehead City field site, we're a little bit to the south. We're in the southern Outer Banks. Lots of smaller estuaries near where we are. And then, of course, we've got highlands all the way out here. So 3 great experiences. All right. So if you come to the Morehead City field site, you will see our new Institute of Marine Sciences mural that is less than a year old. And this is this year's class on their first day of orientation in front of the mural. And these pictures and all the pictures that you're going to see during this, you know, it's really, they look spectacular, but they're kind of typical days. It might be raining, but you know, we're outside, we're in the water. It's really what it's like at the field site. And they're all structured very similarly. So we have kind of 2 more normal classes, this 471 human impacts on estuarine processes and 448 estuarine and coastal marine ecology. And what I mean by normal classes is they meet twice a week and you're kind of in lecture during those 2 periods and their exams. But every Monday we alternate. Monday is an all-day field trip, and one Monday it's associated with human impacts. And the next Monday it's on the ecology class. And they all have independent research associated with them, a capstone project, and we have a seminar in marine issues too. Okay, so I'm going to switch to another presentation, and we can see a little bit more about where we're located here. So it's kind of zooming in on the southern Outer Banks. This is the last barrier island in the Outer Banks chain. So this is called Bogue Banks, and the Institute of Marine Sciences, which is where the field site's hosted, is located right here where it says work. and students will be living in the coastal quarters right here. So you're almost just right across the street. Easy bike ride to work every day. This is going to be important. So this island right here, we're thinking about, this is called Phillips Island, and we're thinking about having the capstone project focusing on Phillips Island next year. And Phillips Island, that's a new island that was just donated to the University of North Carolina. And we're gonna, I don't know what we're gonna do there, but we're gonna do something, and it's going to be absolutely fantastic. This is probably the worst investment. We would never have purchased this island. The island is eroding away. And so I think the project's probably going to have something to do with like constraining the past history of the island and where we are now. So we'll kind of have a baseline for moving forward as we watch this upland forest, very small forest, but wetland oyster reef island kind of disappear in the next 20 years. So lots of fun opportunities there. This is what our institute looked like before the mural was put together. So this is that same tower part of the building, kind of a drone image of our campus. Here's the Capricorn. You'll be on the Capricorn doing a shark survey while you're out here. And here are some experimental ponds that we have in the back that you might get a chance to use. So this is looking out the back window of the Institute of Marine Sciences. So here's Bogue Sound, and that barrier island I pointed out before is in the background. So we try and do weekend activities, and this is kind of a new thing. So just about every other weekend, we plan something to kind of keep everyone in town and a cohort built. And so here we just are. Most of these photos are from a couple of years ago. A trip out to Cape Lookout. This is the Waterfowl Museum. This year they had barbecues out in the parking lot every weekend. But I mean, still it was fun even though they're in the parking lot. So here's where everyone's staying. You'll be staying in apartments at the coastal quarters, and they're 2-bedroom apartments, 2.5 bathrooms. There's a kitchen. People really like staying there. So you'll be cooking for yourself while you're down here for the semester. This was terrible. We're not doing this again. It was the pirate tour. And this guy ended up like offending half of the field site, but hysterical costume. So anyway. All right, so back to those classes. The ecology class, this is now taught by Joel Fodry, and he is a leader in coastal ecology, and he's going to take you on a shark tagging trip off that Capricorn boat that I was telling you before. Excellent field trips. Here's one to Sugarloaf Island. He's talking about, here's Joel in the foreground, talking about the ecosystem services of oyster reefs. The other class, Human Impacts and Estuarine Processes by Rachel Noble. She's featured commonly at the University of North Carolina for her work with COVID and wastewater. How do you want to know? How can you find out how many people have COVID in an area? Well, you can look at everything that's flushed down the toilets. And so that's part of the research she does. So she does a lot of water sampling and COVID testing, and looks at diseases with oysters. And anyway, this is an excellent class. A field trip you'll be on as part of this class, kayaking and looking at some where urban areas meet estuaries. This is the classroom that you'll be in mostly at the Institute of Marine Sciences. So here's our seminar room. And again, this is a couple of years ago. We're not wearing masks anymore, and we're not socially distanced, and hopefully that's our future, still not like this, regular. So Morehead City is a really unique place because we have lots of institutions here. And so when you sign up for independent research, $395, and some of you might be wanting to take honors research, which is 2 semesters, and you can do that too. But we have, so in addition to the University of North Carolina down here, we have a NOAA lab with people you can work with. We have Duke Marine Labs down here, and people work with faculty there. We have NC State down here too. They have a facility that's just down the street from us, and you can work with faculty there. The aquarium. So there are a lot of opportunities for working with faculty, not just from UNC, but other institutions too. And Rachel Noble kind of coordinates the independent research. And so she reaches out at the beginning of the summer and helps you identify a mentor to work with. And I gave the intro a couple of weeks ago as all the students were presenting their independent research projects. And I want you to know, we call it independent research, but nobody does independent research, okay? This is really collaborative research. You don't have to come up with the project all on your own. You are going to tell us things that you're interested in exploring, and we're going to help you make that happen. And we're going to work collaboratively with you to come up with a project that's well suited to what you're looking for. So yeah, a lot of people, at least this year, they were kind of stressed out about independent research. And this is usually a highlight. Everyone enjoys this class. And here are just some examples of what people were doing, working with scallops, sea turtles, just like Lindsay's site, working with fish and changing the temperatures and seeing at what temperatures do fish start to feel a little wonky with global warming. Some microscope work with plankton studies. And again, a lot of our students' research, they're picked up by UNC and their regular publicity. And here's a living shoreline project that was picked up, and there was a piece done. And then the year after this, we were looking at the Outer Banks, some outwash ponds that formed, and that capstone project also got picked up by the university and some publicity. So yeah, we try and do relevant research. So 2 years ago, the capstone research project was looking at the North River Farms restoration site, where they returned a whole bunch of farmland back to wetland. And then last year, the capstone project was looking at those outwash ponds on North Core Banks. And they ended up publishing that work. And I think it's already been cited a couple times. So that was fun. This year, the project was on living shorelines. And we went out and we looked at 4 different living shoreline designs and saw how each one differed and how they dampened waves. A living shoreline is basically an oyster reef sill in front of a salt marsh. And we looked at those 4 designs and we tried to make a recommendation to the Division of Marine Fisheries and IMS of how they should change their shoreline. So our capstone projects, they typically have a client. And so this year, the client was the Institute of Marine Sciences and the Division of Marine Fisheries, which is right next door to us. This slide, the client was the North Carolina Coastal Federation. Last year, the client was the National Park Service. And these capstone projects, the whole class works together on some cohesive research project. Here we are. We presented a poster during, a couple of years ago on that capstone project. So we also try and have multiple products that come out of these capstone projects. This is really one of my favorite parts of the semester is this seminar. So every week we bring in an outside speaker and they come and you have lunch with them and you listen to them give a seminar. And what I think is the best part is you get to spend an hour with them after the seminar and ask them about their career paths, make new contacts. I just really like this aspect of it. You can ask them questions that you might be worried to ask in the middle of a crowded room like this. So it just puts a totally different atmosphere onto a seminar. Yeah, and just to reiterate, I think these are life-changing experiences, and a lot of feedback I got from multiple people this year is that I learned more this semester this semester at the field site than I did my entire time in Chapel Hill. And the reason you learn so much is because you have about 10 faculty at your disposal. And typically field sites are maybe 12 to 15 students. So that's a really great faculty to student ratio. And we get to know you and you get to know us, and we can write you excellent recommendations because we're going to be putting in a lot of personal experiences we've had with you in those letters. Yeah, so if you're interested in a career in science or policy, think about one of these field sites. It's really going to launch your career. What am I missing, Susan?
I don't think you're missing anything. It really is life-changing. The thing that always does amaze me about Morehead City is that it's like, we know about it, but the rest of the, and people in marine science know about it, but it is like the equivalent of what like Research Triangle Park is for marine science. It is extraordinary what's going on in Morehead City. I mean, it's the oldest NOAA lab in the country at Beaufort. It's Duke, NC State, UNC, like you said, Division of Marine Fisheries, Division of Coastal Management, Carteret Community College. I mean, it's,
oh my gosh, I forgot a whole bunch. Thank you.
It's extraordinary what goes on around there. And then you have like all the little smaller groups that like work, like there's sediment management group at Atlantic Beach and Carteret County, and just all the coming together of all the policies and the local governments. It's really extraordinary. Yeah, no, that was awesome. Okay, we have one more presentation and then I'm ready to be bombarded by questions, because I know everyone's just writing down a bunch of questions, either that or we're just covering everything so well.
Rada, what do you want to, do you want me to put those slides back up, or do you have something? You're on mute.
I have slides, so I'm going to show them real quick.
I am going to stop sharing.
So we're going to go from the coast to the mountains.
Are you going to show a giant tree with everybody hugging it? I love that.
That's a good one. And although, I mean, there are two coastal sites and there is some overlap, but they really are, they do have their own nuance and distinctions between them in both locations and emphasis, even though you get the same fundamental core at every field site, right? You get the capstones, the internship or independent study, you get the cohort classes, you get the one-on-one, but there is a little bit of nuance there between those coastal sites for sure. So definitely reach out to Tony and Lindsay to talk about some of those things. But if you just don't like the beach, it's just not your thing, then we'll send you to the mountains.
Well, in case you don't like the beach, or if you would like to experience the mountains, then this is the place to be. So I am Rada Petrick, and I am the director of the Highlands Field Site. So in the Highlands Field Site, we really focus on the Southern Appalachian Mountains, and specifically, we're looking at how humans are impacting the mountains and ways that we can actually use how to use different tools to measure our impacts. And so what's really cool about this site is you actually get to explore the Southern Appalachians quite a bit. So most of our classroom or our classwork is actually outside. So we spend more time outside than we do indoors. There's a lot of hands-on activities that take place. We take three-day field trips. So we get to go and explore the, both North Carolina and Tennessee. So we go to the Great Smoky Mountains, and I'm going to show you some of the pictures from our activities. But basically, so what is our field site? What is it focused on? So I told you it was based on basically how humans are impacting our environment and all of the tools that we're learning on how to utilize those so that we can actually measure this and make some type of inference about it. So you are going to get credit for your capstone. Typically, that is, again, the entire class works together towards a common project. This past semester, we had worked on a microplastics project. So we were looking at basically where the microplastics were coming from. Was it atmospheric deposition? Was it from runoff? So those are some of the questions that we were trying to answer with the capstone. We also have a remote sensing and landscape analysis class, and this you learn how to use GIS, you learn other remote sensing systems, but you also learn how to fly drones, which is really cool. So that's always fun. Thanks, Susan. And And then, of course, you have your independent research projects. And this is one of my favorite parts, okay? So not only do you get credit for doing research, but you get to work with people who are experts in the field, right? And these are not designed to be some, just busy work type of independent research, but really it's designated to help you learn the material. And the questions that you're asking are of like the greatest scientific basically background that you can possibly ask. So the goal for these projects is typically we're trying to work towards a publication, right? So there's going to be from several of our independent research projects, we're actually working with the mentors and with the students so they can complete their work and publish them in a scientific journal, which is really cool. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the projects that were happening during this semester and past semesters. But basically we had, so I'm a bat enthusiast, just kidding, I'm a bat researcher. And I sent Susan a video of a bat today that we rescued from Boardwalk. But anyhow, like some of my students were working on a project with me where we were researching bats. Others were working on small mammals and assessing and seeing how the southern small mammal populations are doing and some of the anthropogenic disturbances that might be influencing where we see specific pockets and species distribution. Other individuals are working on salamanders. This is a biodiversity hotspot for so many different things, not only the super cool bats, but also for the salamanders. And so you get to work with people, experts that are in those fields. We had students who were working on Norda-Saw owls. Some were working on hemlocks or Alarca laurel. And then, we have students that we try to pair up with what their general interests are. So one student was working on wetland restoration and looking at basically the general health of wetlands and how that influences macroinvertebrates, for example. So next year, we're going to have a mentor who's going to work with fish. So there's a whole lot of different aspects that we try and incorporate. And the people that we choose are people who are experts in the field. And again, just like Tony said, independent research project is not that we just give you a question and then we dump you and say, bye. It's really basically like a guided program, right? So you work with your mentors. You develop either a question together, or if you need more help and assistance, right, we can work further with you. But also we really intended to teach you the background information and the methodology, and then you take the research project and you collect the information on your own. And then we also teach you how to use R, which is the statistical program, right? So that you can actually learn how to analyze all of your data and create really pretty graphs, which is awesome. But it's also a really great tool because when you're talking about industry and graduate school, these are essential tools that you want to have in your pocket, right? Not just GIS, but R is an imperative tool that you should have. And then human impacts in the Southern Appalachians. Again, this is just understanding how we're influencing this particular region. But one thing that's really cool about this program is we actually work a lot with the native Cherokee tribes. And so we get to work with different individuals from the Cherokee community, but specifically you get to work with leaders. And so you get to learn from them. And we're trying to incorporate them into some of our research as well, which is really interesting. So basically learning how the cultural history, which is actually the last class that we have, is the cultural history seminar. And the cool part about this one, you get to have your class in a hammock outside. Well, some part of the time. Sometimes it's on the pavilion, but basically it's not intended to be like this super strict environment where you come into a classroom and, like your professors don't know your names. We all get to know you really well. We understand your strengths and weaknesses. We're more than happy to work with you, but also we want you to enjoy this entire experience. The goal is for you to learn and enjoy where you're at. So I just want to move on to the next slide real quick. So lots of highlights that I have already mentioned. And now I just want to show you actually a few pictures from some of the different adventures that we have gone on this past semester. So this is from basically our field site, and this was at Purchase Knob. So it was just the group of our students. This is Dr. Jim Costa and Jason Love, who you would work with pretty closely. And this is us at Cades Cove. So we get to go to Great Smoky Mountains. We bike the entire Cades Cove, which is in 11 miles. You learn the cultural history, but also the actual importance of this particular environment. Okay, this is during the capstone. So the students are geared up and ready. So this is at the Highlands Biological Station. You actually live on site. So it is like a 1-minute walk to everywhere. And you do share rooms with other students, and you share a kitchen and a common space. But the students actually had tremendous amounts of fun this semester. And part of that was we actually took them on a kayaking trip down the Chautauqua River. And this is where you guys might have heard of a particular movie in the Southern Appalachian that was recorded. And you're going to learn about the cultural history behind that as well, but also the importance of the Chautauqua River and some of the general pollutants that we're dealing with, and basically how we're trying to mitigate this. And this semester, the students also presented part of their research in a community outreach program when they went to local high schools and they spoke to students about their research. It was a fantastic experience, not only for our students, but for the high school students. They were thrilled to actually hear about the research and the potential possibilities of what's actually available and what we can do. This is just a picture from the Highlands Biological Station. This is what you wake up to every morning, and this is what you can what you can see. This is the pavilion where we often hold our classes. So we just meet here and we just discuss and talk about about class in general. And then you get to experience some of the local wildlife. So we have elk, and there's a white-tailed deer. Here is just the students exploring the Chattahoochee, right? This is the Great Smoky Mountains, so one of the field trips. This is just a game we were playing. Basically, we were tossing a ball and trying to spit out facts about what we had learned from the Great Smoky Mountains field trip. I know that you may notice that there were 2 chickens here, and that is actually part of the Great Smoky Mountain experience. We actually did visit a visitor center, and they have live chickens in the area. Again, just some of the fun more pictures from some of our field trips. And this is a sunset overlooking the town of Highlands, which is the walking distance from the bio station. This particular hike is called the Sunset Rock, which you can hike to from your dorm. So it's like a 15-minute hike. And then just more fun adventure pictures from the students. This is actually at Roan Mountain, and students doing their independent research projects. We had 2 students who were doing a drone project this semester, and this is from their field experience. And these are our small mammal crew. Here is Noah holding a little mouse right here, and they were setting traps and baiting. So lots of really fun experiences in general, just to show you. And this is from Pickens Nose at the Coweta Hydrologic Laboratory. So again, we do go on a lot of field trips. You get to interact with the local community, but you also get to have fun, right? There's a rec center within walking distance from the Highlands Biological Station, to which you have free membership. So they have really nice basketball and tennis courts, but also they have a fully equipped gym. And then, of course, you have to play cards or whatever games you come up with. And, sometimes we get dirty. So we have lots of hands-on fun things to do. And this is just another picture from Purchase Knob, where we were just eating lunch outside and having a book discussion. And then students, again, do have fun on their own. This is they made a Halloween party, and they made an entire game of who's the murderer, apparently. And then, of course, we're at Highlands in the mountains, and there's ice skating. But students also cook their own meals, and with our cohort that just left, they worked really, really well together. And some of them are actually going to be roommates this coming up spring. And you basically create lifelong friendships, which is really cool. So that's one fun thing. And I'm just going to end it with that picture right there. And I'm happy to take any questions you may have for me.
So the first thing I noticed between the Highlands site and then the two coastal sites is no one in the coastal sites is wearing toboggans, right? Nobody's wearing like the hardcore hat, the scarf. So that is definitely one difference between the sites. It is wet in the Highlands and it is rugged, right? It is, I mean, you have warm, dry places to sleep, of course, but it is deep in the mountains, and actually the Highlands is gets more rainfall than any other site in the state of North Carolina, and that is part of the reason they have so much biodiversity there. So we did have a question that I want to immediately kick to Lindsay and Tony, and it was about some of the differences, some of the core differences between the Outer Banks and Morehead City. And I could have fumbled through on the chat box, but I thought y'all would do a much better job.
We need to attend each other's field sites so we can really dive into this.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Tony, don't you think that one of the differences is the location? Like Morehead City and where we are, we're very small town here, and we're surrounded by lots of protected areas. I mean, it's very that you're not going to be able to find your favorite fast food restaurant. You're not.
There is no other place like the
store.
Outer Banks in
Right.
I mean, it is in the entire Eastern Seaboard. There is no other place like those coastal barrier islands like the Outer Banks. It's just extraordinary.
Yeah.
So rural versus more metropolitan, relatively.
Morehead City metropolitan.
Yes, I think that, yeah, we're a giant city down here.
So wouldn't you say that, so Lindsay, you have a little bit more focus on maybe policy and energy and some of those things. Occasionally you take a social science angle on a topic, although you still have a core in science.
Yeah, so the social science, I think, is part of our classes. So our classes are management and coastal law and policy. We do have an ecology course, but it is not, I feel like even the way that I teach ecology is from a systems approach. So it is also incorporating a lot of the social side of things. And Tony, I'll let you speak to your.
I think probably half of our field site students end up going on into graduate school. A lot of them end up continuing to work at the Institute of Marine Sciences with faculty here. I know.
Tony, I don't know if you mentioned it, but you can satisfy a marine science minor at IMS.
You can satisfy the marine science minor. You'll see our faculty teaching other classes that you can take on campus after the field site. Yeah, so next fall I'm teaching marine geology on campus as opposed to teaching something in the field site.
It'd be a great drive.
But,
so it's not like Outer Banks doesn't do science, but I do feel like Morehead City,
we're a little bit more directly connected with the Chapel Hill community than the Outer Banks field site is.
Yeah, and I think when you said, Tony, that a lot of your students go on to graduate school a lot of it, I think, is in natural sciences. And whereas we have a lot of students that go to law school, they do public administration. We do have a handful of students who do natural science, but it's more like conservation. There are a lot of people that go on to management or working for government agencies. It's not as like research, natural science research, future careers, although there are a handful that do it.
That was the right distinction, Lindsay. Thank you for saying that. Yeah.
But again, at the end of the day, you know, you won't pick the wrong one, right? You can go in any direction going to either one, but they do have a little bit of nuance difference. Both Tony and Lindsay put some links in the chat, also taking you to some blogs and things like that. And remember, we're recording this, and I put the link of where you can find it also in the chat. And then I'm going to kick the next question. There's one to Rada. Somebody started a question Whoever has the initials Bailey, it looks like it's Bailey. Bailey said, Bailey, you started a question, didn't finish it. That's okay if you heard the answer and that's why you didn't. Just so you know, though, I can't see the rest of your
I think
question.
Bailey rewrote their question.
Oh, there it is. Thank you. I hadn't scrolled. So how does science communication fit in the Highlands field site?
And Bailey, I answered your question in the chat, but also basically science communication, you do work with a real reporter who works for NPR, and you do learn how to interview people, you learn how to disseminate science information in general, but also how to communicate effectively. And so those are some of the ways that we're trying to get students to learn how to understand what actual science is and the best way to communicate it. And with that said, I do want to add that I've also included 2 links in the chat. One of them is the blog for the Highlands field site, and the second one is our Instagram account. And the Instagram accounts are ran by students, so you can see some of their adventures and experiences throughout the semester, and you can read about their experiences in a more lengthy way from their blogs. So, and 2 of the students learned how to ride bikes this semester, which I thought was so we work with you on that too.
Yeah, they did. And I think everybody had links to their blogs in the slides, in your slide decks. So if you go back and look at the recording also, and you just can't find something, you'll be able to find it there. And you can go to any of these links and that'll be fine. Connor, I see your hand is raised.
Yes, I have a question. It might be probably more of like a personal question, but I'm just gonna ask anyway. So I'm applied for the Galapagos study abroad, the track. And I really want to do the Highlands field site as well. But I realized they both are doing landscape analysis and remote sensing. So I wanted to ask you specifically.
I can fix that on the Galapagos side.
That's what I assumed as much. I just wanted to ask.
Yep, I can fix that for you on the Galapagos side. You're not the only person who has not been happy about that. And we can definitely figure that out. So we can talk separately offline. And we have an info session on Thursday that you should see an email soon coming out about.
All right, sounds good. But
you also have I'm going to put my email in here for everybody for anything. I love all the field sites. I would go to all of them if I could. They are amazing. And the field site directors are a little bit modest. And is what they don't tell you is that they are also leaders in their field, right? They're saying, oh, you're going to work with these leaders. They are leaders in their field. So it is an extraordinary opportunity to get to work so closely with a professor like this. It really is amazing. And I'm not just saying that. I mean, these guys know I have nothing but passion for these field sites because I think they're extraordinary. And I always like to make sure we reach out to enough students to expose them to some of these opportunities. Okay, so Connor, you may have another question, or you may not have just lowered your hand. Either way is fine.
Okay, I'll ask a popular question.
Okay, ask a popular
All
question.
Right. I'm really concerned. How competitive is the application process?
Who do you want us to answer that?
Yeah, I'm just pretending. So this is a good question. I get this question a lot. Who wants to take it?
It is. I mean, really. So I can't speak for all the field site directors, right? You all have a little bit of your own criteria. But in general, we've usually just admitted people on a rolling basis.
That's right.
Some years it's very competitive and you've got to get it in early. And some years people are a little bit slower, but there is a limit. The whole idea behind the field site is to have a cohort small enough where you have these really one-on-one interactions, right? The idea isn't to have 40 people in your class. That completely goes against the whole idea behind a field site. So think about all the students in ENIC and EAMS and geography, and then imagine each field site takes no more than 15. So it is competitive from just there's limited seats.
But I mean, apply early. I mean, we're not like going through and like having people not go in over like this person's going to be better at the field site than this other person. Right. It's not like that. Yeah. So yeah, apply early and you're in. That's it.
Exactly, because I think we recognize that everybody learns in different ways, and maybe you weren't hugely successful on campus under certain learning conditions, and maybe this is a whole new context for you to learn in, and it is just what you've been waiting for. And I think we see that a lot also. So we certainly don't look at somebody's performance on campus and say, wow, this no, it's more like, wow, I hope this person applies and we carry them through the field site, and it's this extraordinary learning experience. So Tony, that was a great question. I should have had the application deadline on hand, and I do not.
First week in February, isn't it?
First-
February 10th. I don't know.
February
Maybe
10th.
it's
That's
not.
probably
It's
very
something
close. But is where you can find that is on the Study Abroad website, because you will apply to all the field sites through the Study Abroad website. And if you go back to the this recording, you'll see a link on the very first slide. So that will be there for you. And I'll try to pop it in real quick. Lindsay,
Actually,
go ahead, Lindsay. Yep.
I was just going to say that brings something to mind, which is that you can only apply to one field site at a time. But if that field site is full and the other ones aren't, you still have opportunities to apply to those. But definitely, putting your application to that which matches your interests first. And then, but as we've said, there are so many great experiences that are shared across all of the field sites that, as we're admitting people on that rolling basis, if one fills up, there might be opportunities elsewhere. So don't give up on it.
I
Thank
was
you,
way
Rada.
wrong. It's March 11th.
You know what it was, Tony?
Wow.
I think it was February, and we pushed back because that felt really early. And
was too
Study
early.
Abroad finally agreed to let us push it back to March 11th. But that
That's
doesn't mean they won't fill up before then.
I have so many questions. Rada, how deep is that pond?
Oh,
There's a huge snapping turtle that lives in it.
there's several snapping turtles. It always eats all of the ducklings.
I mean, is it shallow or is that a big pond? Is that a deep pond?
It's over your head pond, yes.
Okay.
It eats the ducklings.
That usually out of like 10, maybe 2 or 3 will make it.
Terrible.
Circle of life.
A circle of life and all, but still. And the last thing I'll say is Lindsay had a great point. Ducks are fragile. That the field site, the cost is about the same as if you were on campus. We strive to make sure these field sites that it sort of matches that on-campus tuition. And if you are out of state, you get the in-state rate here, essentially. So it's a great bargain. And cost should not be a reason that nobody goes. There are lots of scholarships, there's lots of financial aid. So that should not be a reason that somebody doesn't think they can attend a field site. We will always find a way to make sure that you can get there.
Do I need to have a car?
That's a great question. You don't have to, but it is convenient.
Yes, you don't have to have a car, but it's convenient. Or you can give gas money to some of your.
Right. I mean, I think we find that all the students really help each other, and they're all such good friends at the end that they go every place together anyway. And you can have people just drop you off and pick you up. I don't know if there's any way to get like between the field sites and Chapel Hill without a car. Honestly, I don't even know if there's a bus route between them. I didn't think there was. So you don't have to have a car, but it is convenient. That's a good one. What else? We have 5 more minutes. Okay.
How often are we going on field trips at the field sites? Is this like every week or more often than that?
Lindsay, how often are we going on field sites at the Outer Banks field site?
So before and after COVID, there have been different answers, but right now we are back to the time when we do a couple of like overnight multi-day field trips. We're moving back in that direction. So at least every week, sometimes for multiple days of a week.
Yeah, at the Highlands field site, you are going to have a field trip weekly as well, but your long field trips, so the 3-day field trips, are once a month.
We try and front end load field trips. So you might have 2 or 3 field trips a week in the beginning because we're going to get some storm and it's going to push everything back. So we do try and front end load things. So it might be multiple trips every week in the beginning. And then as you move towards the end, the last 3 weeks, you might be on one field trip for the last 3 weeks of the. But
All
if
these sites
we
are
have that
really,
big storm, then everything gets pushed back a little bit. So
I mean, y'all are outside, all three sites are outside so much that you are weather dependent and you have to be flexible and adaptive and ready to shift things a lot because you are outside in the field, hands-on for a good portion. Would you say it's like 50% of your time you're outside? Or if you had to just give like a big broad, I'm asking the questions now, Tony. No, I'm just kidding. How much of your time in general would you say you're outside?
I would say at least 50% is outside.
Yeah, I would say that as well, but in our case, it's a little bit cheating saying that. So because we have an outdoor classroom that we use almost exclusively until it gets too cold. So that is still like you have to sit through lectures and discussions during that point, but still I would say that the rest, especially including the independent research and internships, is definitely at least 50%.
Amazing.
yeah, I think that's about the same with all of them for sure.
Yeah, it's a lot. That's awesome. This was a great info session. So give me a day, y'all, and it will be up on that link that I put up in the chat, and everyone can go visit it and send your friends to it and have your parents watch it, because I'm sure they'll be interested in hearing about this really amazing opportunity for the fall semester. Any last minute questions or comments? In that case, we'll have more info sessions later after the first of the year. Don't hesitate to reach out to any of the field site directors or myself, and have an awesome holiday.
Thanks, Susan. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Joining.
Hey, are we really leaving?
We are. I'm gonna wait. Hold on. I'll stop recording.